Serious, what are some of the creepiest declassified documents made available to the public? Biological warfare testing done on US cities. Principally, the operation involved spraying large areas with zinc cadmium sulfide, which is very toxic. Many who were affected died of cancer and the testing was never followed up on. Most of the neighborhood's genetic makeup was looked up for no reason, and no apologies were made. My mom told me one time she was living in California. They stated they were spraying to get rid of fruit flies/gnats. They woke up and all the fish in their tanks were bleeding out their eyes, and she also had a miscarriage a week later. That story always stuck with me and made me wonder. Project Pluto is pretty horrific. The proposed use for nuclear-powered ramjets would be to power a cruise missile, called SLAM, for supersonic low-altitude missile. In order to reach ramjet speed, it would be launched from the ground by a cluster of conventional rocket boosters. Once it reached cruising altitude and was far away from populated areas, the nuclear reactor would be made critical. Since nuclear power gave it almost unlimited range, the missile could cruise in circles over the ocean until ordered down to the deck for its supersonic dash to targets in the Soviet Union. The SLAM, as proposed, would carry a payload of many nuclear weapons to be dropped on multiple targets, making the cruise missile into an unmanned bomber. After delivering all its warheads, the missile could then spend weeks flying over populated areas at low altitudes, causing tremendous ground damage with its shockwave and fallout. When it finally lost enough power to fly and crash landed, the engine would have a good chance of spewing deadly radiation for months to come. Operation Northwoods. Proposed false flag attacks against American civilians/targets carried out by the CIA and blamed on Cuba in 1962. Thankfully JFK said "Luck no" and shut that poop down. Apparently, JFK even demoted the guy who proposed this on the spot. Thank God. Also, this means that this idea had to go through a long chain of command with many high-ranking people in the government agreeing to it. There's one where the CIA essentially was researching astral projection and its possible applications for espionage. Project Stargate. They also wanted to disarm enemy troops with psychic hugs. Anything involving Japan's Unit 731 during WWII. It was a military chemical and biological warfare division that experimented on POWs. The bit that gets me about this is that they got away with it. The US have them immunity in return for their records. I think there was a lot of creepy things that came out when the East German Stasi files were released after the Berlin Wall fell. All citizens were allowed to view their own files, and many were shocked to find out that their own relatives were informing on them because they had no choice, and various other things. A good movie about this is called Other People's Lives. Edit. I got the name of the movie wrong. It's The Lives of Others. Gay bomb. It was a weapon speculated by the USA in the 90s that, when dropped, would release pheromones which would make the enemy attracted to each other. Edit. Spelling. I love the idea that the enemy would just stop fighting a war and get their luck on. I mean, shouldn't we all at least give it a try? The JFK assassination documents never fully being released as they keep getting pushed back. The documents themselves are creepy in the sense of how contradicting they are. But what makes it truly creepy is the full release keeps getting pushed back. MKUltra. The CIA performing illegal experiments on Americans to try to develop mind control. MKUltra was never declassified. It was leaked, and the CIA destroyed all documents surrounding it. In 2018, cables between the US Embassy in Jakarta and the State Department were declassified that casually tracking the massacres of the PKI that took place in Indonesia between 1965 and 1966. Other declassified documents also reveal that a US Embassy employee gave a list of suspected communists to the Indonesian army, and all 5,000 people on the list were rounded up and liquidated. The casual indifference to political genocide expressed by US government employees is chilling. I don't know that it was classified, but the audio tape recorded by the Toy Box killer was leaked. David Ray was a US serial killer who tortured, sexually assaulted, and murdered women with electric generators, surgical blades, saws, syringes, etc. He mounted a mirror to the ceiling, so they had to watch. He had a recorded audio tape that he would play for victims once they regained consciousness for the first time. The transcript is here. The toolbox killers are a separate pair of serial killers who similarly raped, tortured, and killed women. They also made tape recordings of their crimes. Shirley Ledford's tape is the most well-known one. You can hear them telling her to scream, the killers breaking her elbow with a sledgehammer, and her asking to die near the end. During the trial the killers claimed it was role-playing, and only evidence of a threesome. Shirley's mother had to identify her daughter's voice on the tape. The full tape was not released, but the transcript was. They use the toolbox audio tapes to desensitize new FBI agents during training. Operation Mockingbird. It was an operation to manipulate the media for propaganda purposes, but they ended it a long time ago. Honest. The WikiLeaks documents about PRISM and about the smart device hacking methods along with how to set said devices into a full soft mode. Every cell phone without a removable battery could easily may already have this. Paradise Papers. Everyone disregards them, but they pretty much call out every single top 0.00001% wealth and super high power elites in the world for being involved with terrorists, child trafficking, money laundering, you name it. If you haven't given them a read, some of your favorite politicians may surprise you. Just to be clear, this isn't people like Bill Gates or Steve Jobs. While they have plenty of shady business practices of their own, they're pretty clean compared to the real ultra-rich. People like Saudi princes and Russian oil barons that don't show up on lists of richest people because they're so secretive we don't even know how rich they are. The ultra-rich who associate with cartels and drug/sex trafficking rings mostly stem from countries more third world than the US due to more lax laws and far less investigative power. You don't have to feel bad about buying an iPhone because Tim Cook might be involved in child sex trafficking. The worst that Apple does is use Chinese sweet shop labor, but unfortunately that's pretty much every company. Memo from Roger Boyce Joly on O-ring erosion. Months prior to the Space Shuttle Challenger disaster, he essentially predicted and forewarned that the rocket O-rings would fail if the shuttle launched in cold weather. Yes, the CIA has a heart attack gun, and that was revealed in 1975. Try to imagine what they have today, over 4 decades later.